Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. My name is Sara Bartlett, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. Welcome to our town hall event. This one is on the community engagement learning tool. And I wanted to start by just giving you a little background on myself. So I'm an adjunct lecturer here. I'm in two of the departments at Cal Poly, but the one that my service learning project is in and course is in the psychology and child development department. So I teach psychology of aging. I teach two sections of this course pretty much every quarter. And in one of the sections, I do service learning, but it's very minimal. And in the other section, I do a more robust service learning program. And that's called the Lives Well Lived project. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about today. So I'm going to start with going over my syllabus and just sort of showing you how I lay out this project and what it entails. Then I'll walk you through my experience doing the community engaged learning tool, and then hopefully have time to show you a couple of examples of some of the outcomes of the project. So let me start with sharing my screen and showing you my syllabus. So obviously this looks a little different when we're in face-to-face instruction. So this quarter I'm doing this project virtually, but it basically has the same components each time. So I'm going to just scroll down to where I show the grading for my class. And the first thing I wanted to point out is that the service learning program is required and it's actually worth quite a bit of their grade. So there's various assignments that are related to this project, but overall it's about 36% of their grade. So I do ask that students take it very seriously. The project itself, as I said, is called the Lives Well Lived project. And it's basically a program that's based off of a documentary film called Lives Well Lived. It's produced and created by another Cal Poly faculty member, Skye Bergman. And what she has done is she has interviewed several older adults who exemplify successful aging about their secrets to a life well lived and some historical perspectives. And successful aging basically means that you are aging gracefully, you're active, you're maintaining relationships, volunteering, really making the most of your older adult years. And that's exactly the kind of older adults that I want to at first expose my students to in order to try to break down some of the ageism and the fear of aging that is out there. So what we do for this project is we first meet with older adults as a group. So my class and a group of older adults. In this virtual environment, we are working with Senior Planet, which is an online older adult community. And after everyone's watched Lives Well Lived, we have a opening session where we talk about the film and everyone gets to know one another and we kind of launch the project. And then I match students individually with an older adult, and they engage in 3 service learning encounters with them throughout the quarter. Each one tends to last around 2 hours. They do this over Zoom right now, and they basically interview one another using the same interview questions that Skye Bergman used in her film. So these questions are very deep. They're about regrets and proudest moments and relationships and secrets to a life well lived. And so the students and the older adults tend to become very close very fast, even though the quarter goes quickly. At the end of the project, we have another group meeting where we gather everyone together once more and we sort of debrief about the experience, and the students give presentations on what the experience meant to them and what they learned. So that's the general structure of the project. And then in my syllabus, I give a breakdown of all of the different elements. So one of the tasks the students have to do is a reflection paper that they give, that they write after each service learning encounter. And in those reflections, they talk about what transpired in the interaction, how they felt about it, kind of their thoughts and feelings. And then they have to connect that experience to at least 2 connections to class or text material. So they're drawing in information from the course. At the end of the quarter, they combine all 5 of these reflection papers into one term paper. They also do a memoir document or project where they take what they've learned about the older adult and create some sort of memoir of their life, and they give this to the older adult as a gift. It can take various forms, and if I have time, I'll show you what some of those look like. But this is something that they can really use their creativity, and they're supposed to work on it with the older adults, so it's something really meaningful for them. And then the students also have to do a presentation during that wrap party at the final service learning encounter. And these take the form of a 1-minute lightning talk where they just sort of go over what their definitions of a life well lived are and what they learned from doing the project. So I'm going to stop share. And next I'll just show you my Canvas site. Okay, so next I'm going to pull up my Canvas site so you can just sort of see what this is laid out there. So in sort of the introductory module of the Canvas site, I have a section that's dedicated to this project. And so I have a page that has several useful documents that sort of outline the project step by step. So they can tell what happens at each service learning encounter. I have some general tips, the interview questions, the letter that I send out to the older adults, letting them know about the project. And I have the service learning timesheet here. So when we go out in person, they are required to have someone at the community site sign this so that I can tell how much time they've spent at the site. In the virtual format, we're using it more as a record keeping function, even though there's not really anybody at the site to sign it. I also give them a sample so they know how to fill that out, some tips for managing challenging conversations, and I even, in the asynchronous format, have recorded a video describing the project. So they have all of those resources there. Okay, so now that you know a little bit about my project, I'm going to show you how I filled out the community engaged learning tool. And this was something that required quite a bit of time to really think through formally how I've constructed my service learning course. So it was a really great experience actually to really get to think through how I've planned all of this out. So I'm going to pull that up. So this is what it looks like, and I've already filled it out, and I'll just kind of walk you through each section. The first thing I would say is that on the introductory page of this, where there's the instructions, they give you a, actually I'm going to stop share and show you what I mean. They give you a really great guide for kind of walking you through how to choose the answers that you want to choose on this tool. So at first I was a little confused about which options to choose for my class. And then when I clicked on this CSU CEL taxonomy, it really gave me a good idea of which options to choose for the different questions. And you can see that it has each of the essential elements on the left, and then it has a description of the different choices that you have on the right for each of those questions. So there were some that I kind of felt like I was a little bit on the fence about which one to choose. And when that happened, I referred back to that taxonomy document, and that really helped me sort of make a decision. So now going back to the tool itself. So the first page is just sort of general course information. I do want to point out that I am the only one that currently teaches psychology of aging at Cal Poly. It is not a permanent part of the course. It's something that I developed since I started teaching it a few years ago. But as of now, since I'm the only one teaching it, you know, it is a permanent part of the course. If someone else ever picked it up, though, it would be up to them if they wanted to include this. I do have it as a required element. There's no lab. And then in terms of how I communicate with the community partners, it's direct communication. So I don't use the Center for Service Learning here very much. It's mostly me just working directly with our partners. So the first question talks about the reciprocal community partnership, and it's asking about the frequency, depth, and purpose of communication. And as I mentioned, I do maintain dialogue about how the project is going to develop and is going. So at the beginning, there's typically multiple meetings held between myself and the community service organization that I'm working with to sort of plan out the project. And then throughout the project, there's usually just email communications as needed. And then, like I said, there's that wrap party at the end, and then we always debrief afterwards to see how it went and to start planning for the next quarter. For the second question, let's wait for my computer. Okay, sorry, it was taking a while to advance to the next page. So let me just share this again. So the second question asks about the student community involvement benefits, the common good. So sort of looking at how that's assessed and how that's stated in the course. So I checked identified and explicitly stated. So basically I make sure that I talk about this in all elements of the course. So I provide information on things like the impact of social isolation and loneliness in older adults, and the influence of exposure to older adults that exemplify successful aging on reducing ageism, the benefits of intergenerational relationships. So I provide that during the class. And I actually do sort of measure student levels of ageism before and after the service learning project. Mostly that's through their written reflections. So I can sort of tell in their writing how their ageist beliefs are diminishing over the course of the quarter and how they're coming to realize the benefits of these relationships. I'm also currently actually doing a study where I'm more formally measuring knowledge, attitude, and ageism as a construct of this project. And so I'm using a pre-test, post-test design for that. Once the study ends, I may continue using those tools and sharing it out with the students so that they actually can see quantitatively what kind of difference this project is making. Then the next question is on academically relevant community involvement. And so you're supposed to select the statement that describes how the community engaged learning experience facilitates course learning. And I really kind of struggled with this one. I wound up selecting supplements course content. And this was one where I went to the taxonomy to really help me make a selection. So I selected it because students are able to get the course content even if they don't do this project. It's not imperative that they do the project to learn some of these things. But they do tend to gain a lot more of an appreciation for and a deeper connection with the material when they do the service learning, because it really just sort of brings to light the things that they're learning in the classroom or that they're reading. I was going to select either the serves as a text option or the integrated with the course option, but I realized that the syllabus, actually, my syllabus doesn't directly describe the relationship of the community project to the learning outcomes. And so that was one of the things that I think was required to choose one of those options. And then the next question talks about civic learning goals. And so the statement that mostly describes the civic learning goals for my course is explicitly stated because it is in the discussion materials and the course materials. So they learn about social issues like loneliness, social isolation in the older adult population, ageism, and so because those are directly stated, I checked that one. And then next we look at critical reflection, and I chose that it connects course content to community project activity. So the students complete a series of these 5 reflection papers throughout the quarter. And they're asked to reflect on not only what happened, but to connect that to class and text material. And then we also have class discussions sort of going over what they've learned. And so because these are graded and they're constantly reflecting on their interactions, I felt pretty comfortable checking that one. But we don't really collaborate with the community partner on that. So that's why I didn't check the last one. And then sort of related, assessment of student learning. So you're supposed to select the statement that most closely describes how student learning is assessed for civic learning outcomes as part of the project. And I put focuses primarily on course content. And the reason I selected that is because the assessment of the student learning comes from connecting their experience doing the project to course content. So that connection has to take place in order for it really to be producing the outcomes that I'm intending. And so they have that graded work that I've talked about previously. But again, the other options require that the community partner provides some feedback on individual student performance. And I don't ask that of the community partner. I do survey the older adults anonymously and just ask for their feedback on what they thought about the project, but I don't ask them to evaluate the student that they were matched with. So that's why I selected the first option. So that sort of walks you through what I chose and why I chose it. So now I'm just going to click submit, and hopefully I will, yeah, there's my confirmation that I successfully submitted this. And I think what happens next is I should get an email after it's been reviewed, letting me know which of the attributes my course aligns with. So that would be the next step there. So lastly, before we go, I just wanted to quickly show you an example of a student memoir so you can see one of the deliverables of the project. Because this is about people, I had to do a lot of blacking out of names, so sorry about that, but I just wanted to protect people's identities. And so these students did like a digital scrapbook for the older adult that they were matched with, and they just submitted a PowerPoint so that I could see everything. And so you can see it just has some pictures and it talks about their experience. It has some of the quotes that this older adult shared with them that they found inspiring, some information about her life, what's important to her. They have their definitions of a life well lived in there, since that was one of the defining features of the project. They even included a poem that the person had shared with them, some family photos, and then towards the end, they had a page where they actually put photos of them and kind of a little statement about what the project meant to them. So the idea is that the older adult has something that they can share with their family that's about their own life, but that also reminds them of this experience. So thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to answering any questions that you have in the Q&A section of this town hall. Take care. Bye-bye.